So hello, welcome back to the Stevens Forge channel. Today we're talking about the R170 SLK in particular. We're talking about what would happen if you wanted to go and actually go and have a look at one of these cars. If you're interested in buying one, maybe you've got a test driving one booked or you can review one, whatever the case may be, and you actually want a little bit more advice on what to look out for. You've got to remember these cars now, some of the very early ones are getting on 30 years old. This particular one is 26. So these cars are getting older now. There are problems that are known about these cars. So the advice I'm going to give you today is going to be some generic advice that you should do in most cars, but there's also going to be some advice in there, in particular to the R170 SLK. And this is coming from someone who has owned an R170 SLK for nearly 3 years now. So if I was going to buy an R170 SLK, before I even contact the seller to arrange a test drive or a viewing, I would go and have a look online. Here in the UK, we have an MOT, which is a annual roadworthy check that every car has to have. Now, SLKs will fall into that category because the MOT tests are from 3 years old to 40 years old. After 40, become MOT exempt. So all SLKs of this generation will be included in that. So I would go and look at the MOT history, and I wouldn't just look at the most recent one. I would also go back last 2 or 3 to have a look at what has it had done. Has it failed, catastrophically failed? And then has it had a lot of work done to bring it back, maybe 2 or 3 years ago? Are there any advice, particularly on the most recent car? Are there any advice like tyres, for example? Again, not really a big issue to sort out. It might be something to bear in mind though. If you buy the car, oh, I'm going to need tyres in the next 6 months, a year, whatever. You could also do a history check on the car, a HPI check, car vertical check, or something like that to check the car's history. Now that would check for things like, is it car financed? You don't want to be taking a car that's financed by somebody else. Has the car been in an accident previously? Obviously, if the seller has listed this, that it has been in category whatever, white off in this country, we have the category system. Obviously, that's absolutely fine, but sometimes people aren't always 100% honest, unfortunately. You can also check things like, has the car ever been stolen, recovered, and any other little bits and pieces like that. So while you're looking around the car, it's also important not just look at the car itself, it's also important to look at the paperwork and the history that the car has. The car should have some sort of service history. Ideally, it should have had a regular sort of service. Some people aren't that bothered about service history. I am. If I'm buying a car, I would like to see the car has some sort of service history. So I would also ask to look at any paperwork that comes with the car. Obviously, it doesn't have to be done religiously every single year. It doesn't have to be serviced every single year. It can be every other year, but as long as you can find a little bit of a paper trail for a car, it just means that you're less likely to run into trouble. It's not going to make the car perfect if you can service every year and will still run into issues, but your chances of having issues are ever so slightly less. So I would always have a look for a car with service history, and the best way is check out the service history when you're there and actually go through the paperwork that's right in front of you. So you found an R170 for sale that you quite like the look of. You've done your checks on there, you phoned up the seller, you've gone to make an appointment to view the car. What would I be looking at? Well, let's start with the outside of the car. Biggest issue that I would say on the R170 SLK is rust. And let me do a quick walk around and show you exactly where they were. So we'll start at the front. They are known for going on this bonnet edge. Most of the time it will be like on this car, it had some chips on the front which hadn't been filled in or anything, or touched in or anything, and they'd gone a little bit rusted, and that's where you start getting a little bit of rust sort of coming through there. It's just where all the stones and chips and stuff catch on the edge. This one has been resprayed up to about sort of there, and it's been faded in. There are still a couple of little chips on here, even though I've had it resprayed. We'll walk around to the side of the car. You do get rust on this panel here. Now, if the bumpers are plastic, so you don't get any rust on there, but you will get it on the bottom of the wing here. It also feeds all the way around here on all 4 of the wheel arches. You might get a little bit down here as well. You can see on this car there's actually a little tiny bit just starting to bubble up on the edge there as well. Now, another area you can pick up rust, and again similar to the bonnet edge where you get stone chips and they turn rusty, is these A-pillars here, so these pillars at the side of the windscreen. Now again, I've had these parts resprayed because they were bubbling up with a little bit of rust. Again, just where it's been chipped, it hasn't been touched in or repainted or anything, it's just the paint starting to bubble up. Now as we move to the back of the car, we're also going to check our rear arches as well. Again, Don't need to worry about the bumpers because they're plastic, but you will get rust coming up along the bottom here, as you can see on this car, a little bit of bubbling rust, and you also get it around the rear arches as well. So moving around to the back of the car, you also might find there's some rust around maybe the key lock area there can get rusty. Now you don't get this on a post facelift car, it's in the pre-face you get this. The key mechanism is actually built in to the underside here. However, on the post facelift cars, you do get a bit of rust around the boot lid, mainly around this area here. I generally find by this sort of separately fitted handle, but that really only does generally affect the post facelift car. Now, pre facelift is anything for 2000. Post facelift is after 2000. There's a really easy way of telling whether a car is a pre or post facelift. Pre facelift, it has this button on the boot lid. Post facelift, it doesn't have it. The mechanism built in there, so that's one easy way to tell the difference between the two. So moving on to the interior of the SLK, and there are a few little bits to mention here. One is general wear and tear. Now you do get this in most cars, but I always have a look at the bolster here. This one isn't too bad, but there is some signs of wear and tear. Generally they're built quite solid, these cars. They will take wear and tear, to be honest, but it's just something to bear in mind. The other thing is the soft touch plastics that are all around here go into the center console here. They can become sticky. These ones are a little bit sticky, and you can also get really badly peeling paint on there as well. Now you can buy the paint, it's quite expensive here in the UK. I paid about £50 for a little tub of it, so it's quite pricey. The only other alternative is to remove all the plastic, which is pretty much you have to take out the whole interior and then get them freshly resprayed. So it's up to you whether you want to buy a £50 bottle and just dab it on with a bit of an old sponge. Is what I've done here. Is a cheapskate, so it's not necessarily the best finish you'll get, but it is a sort of a cheapskate solution. The cheaper solution is the problem if you're trying to run this car on a bit of a budget, and it does look fine now, to be honest. It's certainly better than when I bought the car, but alternatively you are going to get a better finish if you strip it all out and send it off to get it repainted. Maybe you can repaint yourself or send it off to somebody else, but again it's going to cost you a lot more to do that. Other than that, I'll just check that all the electrics work in here, the stereo work, does the air conditioning work. Obviously, you have to wait till you turn the heat and the engine on. Check the things like the heater works as well. Do all the air vents operate as well? Do they all go to the correct positions? Do they blow into the windscreen, onto your feet, and all of that? So while you're looking around the car, I'd also recommend looking for any signs of accident damage. Now, there are a few easy ways to try and see if there's any previous poor repairs, but not any signs of accident damage. You can have a look at the side of the car. Does the door gap line up? Does it look nice and even? Is the gap between top of the door and the bottom of the door the same? Or it should be very similar anyway, not exactly the same. I don't need to go measuring it all up. I would also go round to the boot, lift up the boot carpet, and you can also have a look just at the floor. Are there any signs of any creases? Does it all look nice and straight in there? Has it been repainted? It should be. I think this is fairly similar colour, silver colour, not quite entirely polished, just to finish on here. I would also go have a look under the engine bay as well. So I'd have a look under there. Just check to see if all these panels and bits you can see is a fairly compact engine bay, to be honest, with quite a big engine. So you can't see too much into the depths of it, but you can at least have a look here at this sort of front panel here. You can also have a look at some of the tops here as well, and just check they all look good. There's no creases, no signs of dodgy repairs. Are they all the same colour? These are all sort of quite a dull silver, but are they all the same sort of colour? Does it look like it's been messed about with? So if you're happy so far, and you think the car checks out and you think it fits your description of what you're looking for, I would then move on to actually looking at the more in-depth things like the engine and then taking it out for a test drive. So if you're on your own, you want to be sort of looking at the engine so you can hear the engine. We also want to be checking the exhaust. Now you can't be in two places at once when the car starts up. So I would try and just sort of hear sort of 2/3 of the car on the way back. That way you can still hear the engine, but also you can see if there's any smoke. Now obviously the cold day you might get a little bit of condensation, a little bit of white smoke coming out of the car. That's absolutely fine. If there's any black smoke or any particular blue smoke, that's generally a bad sign. Unless you're looking for a bit of a project car, it's probably walking away at that point. And I will insert a little clip of what this SLK sounds like on starter. So So now then you start, we can also test out another key feature of the SLK. Now, if you're buying an SLK, you probably want to put the roof down, and the SLK has this Vario folding hardtop. Now, this should fold away. I would always start the engine and fold it away. So I would test this a couple of times. If it's obviously a bit of a cold or wet day, I would still test it anyway. And all I would do is fold it down before you go out for a test drive, fold it back up again. Ideally, I'd leave the roof up on a test drive. So I know it sounds slightly counterintuitive, but it just gives a bit more of an enclosed space. There's less noise for you to actually listen to the car when you're driving the car actually on the test drive, listening out for any noises, knocks, anything like that you want to be listening out for when you take this car for a test drive. And finally, once you've been out for the test drive, I would put the roof back down and back up again, just test it out for a second time. So that you're out for a test drive, what should you look out for? Well, you should be looking for any lights on the dash. There might be some lights, maybe engine warning lights. There might be an ABS light on there. Just have a look, see if there's any lights on the dashboard. You will be looking to see if the engine feels nice and smooth. Does the gearbox feel nice and smooth? I'd always suggest trying to go up to 50 or 60 miles an hour, just so you can at least get up to speed. You can get the gearbox into the top gear, which is gear 5 on this one. Obviously, if you buy a manual, you want to try and get up to a speed probably to 6th gear. The engine is supercharged on this particular one. Obviously, you can buy ones like the 320 3.2 V6, and that is a naturally aspirated engine. So the supercharger should feel nice and smooth, unlike a turbocharged engine where you get a bit of turbo lag and a turbo kicks in higher revs. Of the supercharger should be engaging all the way through the gears and all the way through the revs rather. So the steering on the SLK isn't the most responsive, isn't the most direct, but it should still feel nice and smooth to use. You can still throw it into a corner and it should be okay. There's an aero bridge up here, so I'm just going to go test the brakes and just lightly take my hands off the steering wheel, and the car should hopefully not pull to one side. If that is an issue, it might be an issue with steering, or it might be an issue with the brakes. So coming to a hill now, I'm just going to put my foot down a little bit, or kick down works. A little bit of a pull there. And yes, you can clearly see that the engine's in good health on this car. Kicked down nice and easy, got lots and lots of pull to it. So the engine and gearbox seems to be quite good in this car, and that's what you want to be looking out for. Now it's quite good in this contour lane because it is quite tough on the suspension, so you can hear if there's any sort of unusual sounds, unusual noise that shouldn't be there, so it's quite good to test that out. And also it's a good time to test things like cruise control and speed limiter, wipers, things like that, just to check that they're okay and it's not an annoying little issue you're going to get. So if you're on the hunt for an R170 SLK, hopefully this video gives you a little bit of an insight on the type of things and the types of issues to look out for. Some of these issues and these things to look out for are quite generic. Some of them are a little bit more specific to the SLK. So hopefully you've got a little bit more idea to what to look out for and the issues to look out for when you're going to view one of these cars. Obviously, I've owned this car for nearly 3 years now, so I'm quite a dedicated owner. I was not afraid of putting money into this car. I bought this car with issues. There were also some issues that we found out along the way. There's also been issues like this year. The engine suddenly started running lumpy. I had to have some new spark plugs. There are going to be issues going forward. If you get to the point where you found some issues that weren't mentioned, obviously then you might be able to use that as a bit of a bartering tactic, maybe to get a little bit of money off the car. On the other end of the scale though, if you're buying a car like this that was a bit of a mini project and it was priced quite keenly, it's just £500 that I bought this car for, I couldn't really haggle the price because I felt £500 for a running driving SLK with several months MOT, I couldn't really argue. Plus as well, I bought this car from a dealership and they wanted to get their money back on the car. So this car came as part exchange. They pay £500, taking this £500 part exchange, and that's the price that it was. So I couldn't really haggle anyway, but not that I'd want to, because I thought this car was a pretty good bargain, to be honest with you. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you have any more questions or you want to add anything, maybe something I've missed off, please do put them in the comments below. And as ever, I will try and respond to every comment that I can and answer all your questions. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has helped you out a little bit on your SLK journey. And it's goodbye from me, bye from the SLK, and we'll speak to you very soon. Goodbye.